Y'all, it's a little wild out there. Okay, I know it's not just me. So I'm about 2 months into job hunting now, and the last time I had to deal with job hunting was about 18 months ago, and I found a job within 2 months, which was not bad at all. I don't remember exactly what the job environment looked like back then, but it just feels really chaotic right now. It seems like there's so many ghosts or like robo postings. Man, especially on LinkedIn. Job reposted 3 weeks ago. Over 100 applicants. It's like, come on. Is that actually a job? Are you actually hiring? I'm not really sure you are. It's so irritating. And I feel like I don't even get any thank you for applying emails anymore. I think I've gotten 2. I think in the last couple months. I don't even get a thank you for coming in for an interview follow-up, which is like, holy moly. Now granted, if I had actually really wanted the position, I would have followed up, but no, dear John, thank you for coming in for an interview, but we've chosen another candidate. Nothing. So I'm looking for jobs anywhere in the marine science or environmental science realm, just because that's my background, but there is nothing out there. And so I'm kind of trying to use this time as doing a bit of a career pivot and take a step back from focusing on taking a job based on its salary and instead taking a job based on it lights my heart up when I read the job description and focus on happiness. And sometimes those things do overlap, and that's very nice, but there's just not a big pool to choose from right now, so not a whole lot of options. Financially, I kind of can take this time to scale back from worrying about income and focus more on, the rest of the hours of my life outside of the 9 to 5. And if I can find something that brings happiness in a cheaper cost of living area and scale way back on my monthly housing expense, which is my biggest expense and the thing I've been trying so hard to cut down for, always, but certainly the last couple of years. And that's because I've spent years living intentionally below my means, and so I know what kind of comfort range I would be okay in. So I have been applying to jobs in much cheaper cost of living areas. If I see something come up that the job description lights my heart up, I'm going to apply. And if the money works out, great. If not, okay, move on to the next one. I don't know, maybe I'm just burnt out on W-2 work in general, but I'm not just pigeonholing myself to environmental science or marine science just because that's what my background is. I have other interests as well, and it feels like a great time to explore where combining those other interests with paid work could go. So here's a little story of one potential outcome that could happen when you are trying to do a career pivot and you are meeting people who definitely do not understand what you're trying to do. And this is something I definitely did not expect to encounter in this process. So I applied for this job to go pick vegetables in a hydroponic greenhouse in a very remote location, very cheap cost of living area. It would be a very different, very slow pace of life, which is the direction I want to go with my life overall. Yes, it's a manual labor job, but the thought of being in a greenhouse all day, it just sounds so lovely, and just for a whole bunch of reasons, it just sounded so very much like I need to apply to this job. So I did, and I went in, had an interview. It went great. They made it clear it was like a repetitive task job. I said, yeah, no problem. Had plenty of that. Spent plenty of time offshore counting dead fish one at a time, leaning over a basket or a tote or a table, and you're offshore, just being thrown all over the place, all hours of the day and night, in all kinds of weather. Like, I know what manual labor is. So naturally, they're really concerned why this person with a master's degree wants to come pick lettuce. So I was very careful and curated in my wording in my cover letter and the answers in my interview. And they asked me a salary. I threw out a number. She was like, oh, no problem. Like, I don't know exactly what that meant, but I was reasonably comfortable with whatever that meant. I heard from her a few days later that, in her words, everyone was so excited about my resume, and the CEO himself wants to talk with me and talk about like potential future career opportunities in a couple different directions, like production supervisory kind of work or like chemistry, food safety kind of thing. So he was excited to talk to me, blah, etc., etc. So she followed up that phone call with an email giving me potential start dates as well as contact information for the CEO. So I called him, and it was he opened the phone call with a joke about white slavery, which is like, granted, like, my last name is pretty Irish, and maybe they told him I'm white because they saw me in the interview, but like, either way, not exactly appropriate. So given that colorful comment and just the tone of his voice, it was immediately evident that he was a person of a certain age and a certain demographic. But he just was throwing really random questions as well as bits of information at me and pieces of family history, and then proceeded to bombard me with, I need you to understand it's a manual labor, repetitive task job. It's, you're standing in one spot doing the same thing over and over 8 hours a day. And it's not going to be enough money for you. You need to be thinking about your career long term. And you're going to need more money. And like, he kept repeating himself with these things. And in between coming at me like that, I'm still dumbfounded by the way the phone call opened. So I'm just so taken aback. He's throwing questions at me, and I'm having trouble articulating thoughts and trying to even keep up with his trains of thought because they're all over the place. And he's either not giving me any time to answer and just like keeps talking and moves on to the next topic, or I like start to answer and he just starts talking right over me and just changing the subject completely. And so I'm just bewildered this whole time, and he keeps like projecting on me that what I'm going to need and want financially and what's going to bring me happiness from a job, like literally just repeating himself, and just abruptly ends the phone call with, I need you to pick a decision, like, do you want to go to the food safety chemistry route or production supervisor route? Because man, if you're just standing on that line all day and you're listening to your music and it can be all chill and whatever, but you're gonna want more money. And I wanted to, like, I even tried to stop me, like, that actually sounds so perfect, and that's exactly why I applied to the job, was to just put some music on and chill, like give me a task and leave me alone. Like I just could not get a word in edgewise. It was just so incredibly overwhelming. He like wanted me to decide right then and there which trajectory I needed to go down, because that would mean I either had to have another phone call with like the production manager guy or the food safety manager guy. And I had to pick right then and there. And I was like, what? Look, he's projecting all of this, like what I'm going to need financially out of a job at me, and saying I'm going to need to pick these two things. Yet I still have no idea what the salary range is for any three of these jobs now, and he doesn't even know my financial situation anyway. It was just so damn evident this whole time that he just saw a chick with a master's degree and immediately made presumptions about the fact that I don't know what manual labor is and I need X amount of money to sustain my life, and he has no clue about either one. And he didn't even let me speak to try to even defend myself. And so I followed up that phone call with an email to the person I've been speaking with that interviewed me and I had been talking to. And I said, okay, he wants me to have a phone call with, and I said to him, my knee-jerk reaction is like production, maybe, because like the word chemistry to me right now after the nuclear plant is just like not a word I want to hear right now. And how can I pick this either without having any clue of what the work environment would be like for either of those positions, or what the other people are like that I would be working with? Because nowadays, those kinds of things, my day-to-day happiness, are the priority, and the work environment and the people you have to work with very heavily play into that for me. So why can't I just start at the bottom, which is what I applied for, what we all agreed on in the beginning, and was made very clear to me in my interview, that everyone starts at the bottom and then you can probably move up as positions become available. Because it is a new company, it's a new startup, like they're just getting started. So like I just wanted to come in and pick veggies. Like it was kind of understood that like, cool, that's where we're all starting, and maybe with your degree we can better utilize that in other positions later down the road. But now I'm being bombarded by this phone call that just went a completely different direction. I'm completely caught off guard and have no clue like where I stand now or what's happening. So it took the lady a couple days to get back to me by email, because I told her Mr. CEO now wants me to have a phone call with Mr. Production Manager. And she wrote back and said, oh, no problem, he's just been busy, so it'll have to be sometime next week. And so now I'm like, wow, this is like really dragging out. So I wrote back, no problem, but like, can you maybe help me understand like what the process is here? Am I preparing for another interview style phone call so I can prepare, or so I can be prepared this time around? Or like, is a job offer contingent upon this phone call? And she writes back, word for word, no need to apologize, I'm so sorry for the confusion. After your phone call with Mr. CEO, he informed me that he would like Mr. Production Manager to talk to any applicants that will be working in the greenhouse with him. He wants to be sure the applicants understand exactly what the work will entail, repetitive fixed/bench work that requires meeting quotas every day, and that Mr. Production Manager thinks they'll be capable of it. So it would be good if you could speak to any history of work like this, and how you think you can stay motivated and efficient when you speak to Mr. Production Manager. All of which are items I very specifically already outlined with her in person in my in-person interview. We already had talked about all of these things. So she opened it with, after your phone call. So apparently my phone call specifically with Mr. CEO was so bad that he now expects Mr. Production Manager to do all of this extra work, to take all of the time out of his day to do an additional interview with all of the applicants to make sure that they understand what manual labor's like. For some reason, knee-jerk reaction, my inner rage is just like full on insulted by all of this now. So now I feel like everyone is suddenly looking at me very differently because of this phone call I had with Mr. CEO, who came in with presumptions about me and completely steamrolled me through a whole phone call and didn't let me speak or defend myself at all. Who just, like I said, sees some powder princess with a master's who has probably never done hard work before. Like, if I was going to have to defend myself so hard in the hard work, labor kind of work arena, I guess I should have thought harder about this when I applied, but I would have put more of those type of jobs on my resume. But I just kind of like gave it most recent ones, and like but made it very specifically clear in my interview the manual labor, repetitive tasks, things that I've done in the future, and how it's been in some way a component of every single job I've ever freaking had. So it's like, I'm initially so insulted. And that was Thursday. It's been like 2 days now. And I was hoping I woke up yesterday feeling better about it. But no, I was just even more mad. So today I'm like mildly better, but I'm just so confused now because everything about it just immediately felt so right. When I first saw the job posting, when I first got immediately furloughed, it was like the first thing I applied to. Well, no, the first thing I saw that I was going to apply to, but I sat on it for a couple weeks so I could really tailor my cover letter to explain this career pivot to people that are clearly going to think I'm crazy. So I don't know. I feel slightly better today. I'm trying to tell myself, like, I kind of have two options here. I can let myself be so enraged by this, because all day yesterday I was like, F this, like, no. Working in a workplace where I'm feeling like I have to show up and, like, prove myself every day just because some certain person of a particular demographic saw my resume and made assumptions. I can either let that one person, and probably not someone I would even be working with day to day. I don't think that would be the case. I didn't get that impression, but I don't know that. But am I going to let one individual ruin my perception of what otherwise, in every other way, could be such a great thing for me, like job-wise and location and like the different lifestyle it would provide? And because I do want to make sure I'm taking into consideration not just my hours that will be consumed by a 9 to 5, but also all of the other hours of my day, and those are the more important hours to me. So it's a balance of like, do I let this, what feels like insult, like ruin this whole thing for me and just go in, or just go forward like with a sour attitude about it and just see what plays out? Or say to myself, you know what, this guy just doesn't know me. Like, clearly we have very different personalities, and I can like go into this next phone call with Mr. Production Manager, like really get my chance to speak firmly for myself in that kind of environment, and make sure he's clear that I am clear about what the job entails and that that is what I'm looking for, and like to stop questioning me about that. You know, and then if they do move forward with a job offer, just take the job and just show up every day and do my best like I would have anyway, and just let my work ethic speak for itself? Or do I let my pride and anger like keep me from, you know, I just feel so irritated by this guy, this situation, and like I don't even know how to feel about it, and I'm trying to feel better about it. So I'll take this phone call with Mr. Production Manager and like see what plays out. But man, it just it's funny. I find myself in another phenomenon that seems to be happening in the job market right now, which is being grossly overqualified, yet like can't give yourself away. And so it's just so bizarre. I don't know. I guess it's just got me wondering, and I'm curious, what do you guys think? Am I just being dramatic?